Our worlds are in danger. To save them and the galaxy, we must find the 4 cyber planet keys before the Decepticons can use them for evil. It is our mission. Hotshot, Jetfire, Vector Prime, Landmine, Scattershot, Optimus Prime, transform and roll out!
Hello YouTube faithful and Nerd Nation, this is Lucius Prime coming at you again with yet another Transformers toy review. As you can tell from the intro of this video, it's going to be about none other than the Guardian of Time and Space, Vector Prime. But before we actually get into that one, there's something I forgot to do on my last video about Nemesis Prime that I wanted to go through with about real quick on that one, and then we'll jump right into Vector Prime. Well, anyway, here we are with Nemesis Prime. I'm not sure how well you can actually see the light piping coming through on his eyes, because it looked pretty good whenever I first originally filmed it. But then whenever I reviewed the video after I posted it to YouTube, couldn't really see it. But, you know, this is why light piping is so important, because it just gives the toy some kind of life. Got a little light right here. I'm going to actually shine through his head to kind of really show how it goes. I mean, probably not the best light to do it with, but still, I mean, it's awesome. Anyways, hopefully that goes through that time. Well, anyways, the part that I actually really didn't get that I forgot to do during my last review is actually just looking at the head sculpt of this Nemesis Prime. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. Like I said, he's a repaint of the G2 laser Optimus Prime, but compared to a lot of other Optimus Primes, I mean, yeah, it's the same head, just different paint, but still, this is actually one of my most favorite head sculpts on any Prime toy. I mean, I generally like them all, but a lot of them do kind of suck, but this one's actually just one of my favorites. Anywho, let's go ahead and, now that I've covered that, let's go ahead and jump into Vector Prime. And here we have Vector Prime from Transformers Cybertron. Highly revered as Cybertron's greatest swordsman in history, also known for being the guardian of time and space, essentially a god in his own right. He was actually handpicked by Primus himself for that job. You see I've got his little mini-con right here, Safeguard, who also happens to essentially be the... well, I guess you could say, if you were to compare it, his angel, I suppose. Anyways, Vector Prime started off as one of the original 13 Primes. But then, you know, all that crap with Megatronus the Fallen. But anyways, this is a toy that I always wanted whenever I first came across it and everything. I mean, as you could tell from his from the intro, I mean, even if you've watched the cartoon or if you have the toy yourself, he's a very simple transform himself, because unfortunately, well, fortunately and unfortunately at the same time, the figures out of what they call the Unicron trilogy were all essentially made to be a lot easier for a younger generation. Regardless of that, his design is just purely epic, in my opinion. I mean, you see he's got the little slot right here for just a cyber planet key, which I don't particularly care to keep in there, because I don't want him to constantly be making sounds and stuff like that. I've got his sword. His sword actually gets stored right up in here pretty niftily, and, you know, becomes part of his alt mode. As you can tell, just from the alt mode, just his wings and his fuselage actually fold back, and when actually looked at from the front, kind of appears like a cape, almost like just, you know, an old knight, which that's kind of how he was portrayed in the show. I mean, all in all, you know, this figure totally, I would actually have to give it a, I'd say maybe actually an 8 out of 10 on my scale, and he's definitely one of my favorites. This figure actually was given to me last year by a very close friend, a brother of mine actually, Fletch, whom I've given shout-outs before, so yet again, shout-outs. And even though he's not an Optimus Prime figure, he's still a Prime, and I do actually have to kind of focus on his head sculpt as well. I mean, it's just got that look of seriousness, and And, you know, he's got an expression of what, you know, you would expect a knight to really have. Now, if you actually look closely at his face, it should look familiar other than the fact that it's his face. Now, if you can't figure out why it's familiar other than just being his face, well, let's take a look at this real quick. Vector Prime's face, by their story, was the inspiration for the Autobot symbol. But the way that it actually went in real life, obviously, they modeled his face after the Autobot symbol, because, well, the Autobot symbol's been around longer than the character. But all in all, again, you know, a really great figure, very sturdy, stands on his own. His alt mode is pretty cool. I think that's really all I've got to say about him. I hope you guys enjoy him. I know I enjoy him. I cherish him. He's definitely, you know, a great addition to my collection. Again, shout outs to Fletch. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to get this figure from you when you did. Anyways, this is Lucius Prime, and well, I'll be back at you guys soon with another Transformers toy review. Until then, till all are one.